Welcome to the Insurance Agency Success Podcast, the only podcast that helps insurance agencies grow their business while increasing their happiness and joy. I'm Eddie Price, founder of Jenesis Software and an agency owner for more than 30 years. I have started, bought, sold, and scaled agencies, and for the last 25 years, helped others do the same through Jenesis. On this show, you're going to hear real stories and proven strategies to help you streamline your operations, increase profits, and really enjoy the business that you've built. And if you'd like to learn more about what we do here at Jenesis Software, just visit genesissoftware.com, click on the orange button to request a demo. In this episode, my guest is Ann Pridgeon with AllCare Insurance. Ann is the owner of AllCare Insurance, 7 locations, and in this episode, she's going to tell you how she got there. She has 21 team members, many of whom have been with her for 15 and 20 years. She'll tell you the secrets to making that happen. She's going to talk about cross-selling, and she's going to talk about this very cool and unique way that I'm not seeing other agencies do for how to train new team members. She's got this dialed in. So this is a great episode. I hope you stick around and like it. And please comment and leave your thoughts. Thank you so much. Welcome, Ann, to my podcast.
Thank you, Eddie, for having me. I appreciate it.
Let's do 2 things. I'm going to want you to tell me about you getting in the business, kind of your story from starting in this industry until now.
We're AllCare Insurance Services. We are located in Shelby, Gastonia, Belmont, Charlotte, Stanley/Denver area, Winston-Salem, and Concord. We are insurance for everyone, but not anyone. So while you may fall in something that we can give you a great price for, we may not help everyone. That's okay. We can still be the nicest people that you come in contact with because nice is free. And if you have a name like AllCare, you better care. So we just try our best with the options that we have. And if we can help you, fantastic. If we can't, we'd be glad to help you find someone who can. So the brief little encounter of my short resume of how I'm here today. I got married at a very young age, moved to California, came home with a daughter. She was 1 at the time. I knew I didn't want to work nights or weekends, so I was looking for a banking type job. Applied at a bank, got denied for that job, but the branch manager said, I know a man that's looking for help at his insurance agency. It's the same hours as ours. You should go see him. I went, I interviewed that day, started the next day. 15 years later, bought the agency from him. 10 or so years into that, I decided to expand. And from that one office, I am now 7 locations.
All right. So, simple enough. How many team members do you have?
I have 21.
And when you think about agency size, and you're saying, somebody says, how big is your agency? Do you think premium volume, is that the thing that comes to mind mostly? Or customers, or what comes to mind?
I mean, really all the above, because I've got to have, and that's subjective to the listener, right? Or the person, right? I mean, I might say, okay, my agency is $15 million in premium, which may not seem very much to someone else. But to me, when I first bought my first agency, my premium was maybe $3 million. So I felt like I've done something. So when I look at the work structure and the workload for each of my 21 staff members, that tells me whether or not if I'm off kilter with my numbers of employees versus my client count. So that's always been my structure. And I've had to rework things over and over and over because I was trained one way. And, as good as that was and the foundation that created for me, COVID switched everything on its heels, and we had to reinvent everything after COVID. And that being some of the way I look at training and staff numbers and how I treat my staff, and it all the way around, everything changed after 2020.
Well, I think reworking is required to survive in business. I think you don't go too many years without reworking something, and probably not too many years without reworking quite a bit. So you think it's important to kind of keep that premium number in your head. Sometimes you'll talk to a business owner and they'll, I don't know how many customers I have. I don't know. But you think that it's you and it's 15 million ballpark of what your number is?
Ballpark, yes.
And do you have a ballpark number of clients?
Probably 8,000, I would guess, but I don't know if that's personal and commercial or if that's just personal. So I haven't really done that.
So when you were talking about the number of team members, if you had 4,000 customers and 21 team members, your logic and your formula says that I need a certain number of team members per certain number of premium volume or clients, right? And so that's how you track that. And I, not always, but you could do the number of team members based on premium volume and or clients, because all that math should kind of work out. 8,000 clients should be within the ballpark, depending on if you're doing a whole bunch of big commercial or not a whole bunch of big commercial. We could change that. Okay, cool. When you think about the word success, and if you're like me, the definition of that word's changed over the last 25 years for many of us, as we experience life, and experience tragedy or love or hardship or whatever. What do you think right now when you think of if somebody's saying, gosh, Leanne, you're successful, or if you're thinking about someone else being successful, what do you think that means?
To me, the successful part of it is if my staff is successful. I mean, I used to think that my goal or my job was to be an insurance agent. And I think since I've become an owner and I have people that I'm responsible for, my job, while insurance got me here, I think my job is strictly to make sure that they are able to make a living and have a career and to be the best that they can be. Now, is everyone that's crossed paths with me and been employed with me thought that that was my mantra for them? Probably not. But I do feel that my success is their successes. So if I'm successful, it's because my staff has been successful. Because I just see me grinding every day and just doing what I do. I don't look at it from a me perspective. I look at it as them perspective.
So for success for them, then, what's that?
They're able to live comfortably, do the things they want to do. I have a lot of employees now with a lot of children, and they do a lot of sports. And it's important for me that they get to go and experience those things. In my early years when my kids were young, I didn't get to see a lot of those sporting events. I make sure that and now obviously it's not always possible. There are things here or there, but for the most part, they know if they come and ask Lee, then it's a done deal, because you don't get those days back. You don't get those ball games back. And that to me is what success means, is that they can rest assured that they can come to me and have a healthy conversation with me and not be made to feel a certain type of way simply because they asked for a day off.
Okay. Any thoughts about a framework to achieve that success of making your team members successful? Any thoughts more than what you've already said about, what is it you're doing to enable those things? And you mentioned training a minute ago when you were talking about reworking things over time. Reworking training, I guess, is what you meant. Does training become a part of making them successful?
Yeah, I mean, surely they've got to know what they're doing in order to be successful at it. So yes.
How do you train? Because that's hard. I mean, most agencies they hire the person. They say, set beside Sally, watch Sally for a week. Then Sally watches you for a week, and then you're good.
Well, we did that for vast majority of the years, right? And then I, for one, got sick of saying the same things over and over and over. So we have recorded ourselves.
Love it.
We record our training. And so when someone says, oh, I don't recall that, or I didn't hear it, we're like, go back to this training video. You can rehear it, and it helps them to get back. It's especially good for all the various carriers, because you and I both know that they have different guidelines And we just had something with Progressive the other day. I got a frantic call from my office manager saying, oh my gosh, are we doing something wrong? A Progressive CSR just said she's going to report our agency. I said, for what? She said, for writing a policy with a non-licensed driver. I said, but we are supposed to do that. And I said, did they know that you were in North Carolina? And she said, oh, I didn't ask. I said, I'm guaranteeing you they did not know we were in North Carolina. So it's those kind of training things that, you have to just go back and remember, oh, yes, we are in North Carolina. Maybe someone from Ohio answered this phone call and they don't know we're in North Carolina and that we have a different set of rules. So I just think having those tools available to them to be able to look back and say, even how do we print something in Jenesis without having already gone through the Jenesis training or the hands-on training, then they can go back to our section in our training that says, this is where you go to print out an endorsement, or this is where you go to do this.
Okay. I like that a lot. I didn't know you were doing that. And I want to unpack that just a little more.
Okay.
So what are you using to record?
Our laptops.
But I mean, what software? How are you recording these?
Yeah, Eddie, I won't be able to tell you the name of it, but it's something that's encoded in my software on my laptops. And so I have a laptop, usually Concord or myself, since Concord's my main hub. We are the ones that normally do the training, especially with Adriana and Afelda. Adriana's been with me for 22 years. Afelda's been with me for 17. So they do most of the training videos along with myself so that we know it's being done correctly.
Okay. I may follow up with you later. I'd be interested to know what you're using. So,
okay, sure.
And when you record this, are you recording screenshots only?
Yes.
Okay.
It's our voice and the screen.
Okay. Which is very similar to some of the Jenesis training that people might take, some of the videos that we do where you show on your screen, click here, click there, and somebody's talking it through. What's the average length of a video?
Some of them are 5 minutes. So I don't want to make them so long that they lose interest. So we'll name each little snippet of, this is how do you make a payment for National General. Okay.
Then where do you keep this information?
It's in the Google Drives.
Okay. So you've structured it pretty well in the Google Drives, like go here, like there's a hierarchy and here's the section on this and that. I love that.
And in Jenesis, we have seems like I can't keep my my employee count correct with the number of usernames I have. So I always have a few extra usernames. So we have one of the usernames under I think it's under my son's username in Jenesis. And underneath that, in the actual, when you pick down between the names, we have a training one. So if someone's new, they click the training name so that I know that anything they do is under that tab. So it's easy for us to reference back to see what files they went into. So it's another follow-up way for us to see. So until we know that, we feel like, we don't ever know, but until we feel like they're good to make it out there to where they have their own username, they just operate under a training name until we get past that.
Oh, I love that. Man, I think you're doing better than most agencies are with training, because almost every agency, I think, trains like I described earlier, and they want to get to a better place. And life happens and every day's busy, so it's hard to implement something new.
Well, it's nice to put them in a room and put them on headphones and get them a notebook and put them in front of the computer screen and say, click here, click here, click here. So it's nice to not have to have to use another able-bodied person to do that so that they can kind of self-learn.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely the right thing to do. I think every business owner, insurance or otherwise, should do that. And books like E-Myth, I don't know if you've ever read any of that kind of stuff, and there's several in the E-Myth series. That's the foundation of that book, is build things like this, systematize your business, and act now like you're a larger business. So if you act when you're a 2-person agency like you're going to be a 21-person agency one day, getting there is going to be easier than because when you wait till you're 21, you think life's busy when you've got 2 employees. Wait till you've got 21. So you don't put it off till later. You mentioned 2 of your team members that have been with you for many, many years. And you also mentioned that it seems like now more than ever, hiring and keeping employees is a challenge. what advice would you give somebody that's, if they come to you, and I bet you've given this, I bet you've had this question, I bet by real people in the industry, not necessarily thinking you've got it all figured out probably, but people coming to you saying, golly, any advice? What would you do? What do you think the trick is to finding them and keeping them? Or do you not know yet?
I feel like I still figure that out, because every time I feel like I know, the world goes topsy-turvy and everything I thought I knew about it is gone. So it definitely keeps me on my toes. I think the problem is you have to be willing to meet people where they are, because I have some that I know I can only and while it seems very unfair to some others, because you have expectations for your whole team, right? But there are some that I know they can't go out here. They can only go here. And if I know that, and I'm willing to take that risk and go, okay, I know your max is here. Your max is not up here. It's here. I've learned to meet people where they are and to lower those expectations. And while that might seem to some out of this world, I just think it's where we are. And my office manager, Afelda's my personal lines manager, Adriana's my commercial lines manager. And Afelda said to me the other day, she's like, Lee, how do you do that? I said, sweetie, you just got to meet them where they are. I said, and they're not all going to be Afeldas. They're not all going to be Lees. I said, so you have to find where they are and you adjust accordingly. I said, and I'm not saying that we don't still push them to do more, but you have to do that in a different way. And that's just where we are.
Well, it sounds like you've done some things well to keep some of your people 15 and 20 years. So, all right, changing subjects a little. How long have you been a Jenesis customer, do you think? And what do you use from us?
Let me think back for a second. We were in our new building, and that building had just been rebuilt, and it was after 9/11. So that was in 2001. So I want to say, yes, it was 2002.
Okay. That sounds about right.
So for a minute, and we used pretty much everything. I mean, we were one of your lone users of JBooks when nobody else was using JBooks.
Yeah. Are you still use it?
I don't. I have a CPA that does things now, so I don't have to. If I do have to write a check, I'll use it through JBooks. So there's lots of things there that we still utilize.
So using the agency management system, and you're using the classic version of our agency management system. What's the best thing we do as a company, and where do you think you'd like to see some improvements?
The best thing is this, and I've always said this, is you listen. I have a problem. You guys, I'm not just somebody. You listen and you go, I don't know if we can make that happen, Lee, but let me see if I can. And 9 times out of 10, you do. You and Lisa have always been great at listening to whatever my concerns are. If I can't find out something, you listen. And that, sure, I've been approached by other agency management companies through the years, and they, maybe they have more bells, maybe they have louder whistles. I don't know. But I will stay tried and true because of the relationship I have with you guys. And the thing that I probably say could do better, stop going down on Fridays.
Oh, yeah.
If the system ever goes down, it's always on a Friday. So could you manage that better?
Yeah. Yeah, we'll just say, let's start picking other days. Pick other days.
Yeah. Wednesdays would be ideal.
Yeah. Do you think, if you look back over the last 12 months, let's talk about the system going down. If you look back over the last 12 months, do you think it's gone down once, 6, 5, 10 times? I mean,
less than 5. And some of the issues that we have are not necessarily that it goes down completely, but it gets frozen a little bit for the offices. And I realize that I think the team is on different servers. So some people will go down while others don't. So that's actually a good thing for me. That way, at least the whole company's not down.
We may have already touched on this with some of the other conversation. What's the hardest thing about this business?
Well, now it's employees. And I know I've heard that from others, that when you talk to Miles, when you talk to Todd, it's employees, sadly. And I just think that somewhere along the way over the last few years, work no longer became a priority for people in our country. And if it gets hard, then they just assume quit. So, and I don't think people understand how much training. I'm not saying that every job doesn't have its fair share of training, but there's so much training that goes involved in an independent agency versus even a direct writer, because we have so many there's exceptions to every rule, and we have so many different carriers to have to deal with that when someone only wants to give you even 3 months, that's 3 months. I'd rather them quit day one because it's just so much to learn. So that to me is the biggest hurdle. Homeowners right now, obviously, is a hurdle. Nobody wants to write it. If they do, they want ridiculous premium, and consumers don't understand that. So the middleman work is more than it used to be.
The middleman work meaning what?
Between the customer, the agency, and the carriers. That we get beat down from the carrier side, we get beat down from the clients.
Largely around homeowners?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, not as much auto. I mean, sure, you get some auto people that are upset, but, the material misrepresentation that's been going on with consumers these days, they just think that they can be above it somehow and that it'll never be caught by them, that they won't get in trouble just because they forgot to add their 16-year-old to their policy that they're letting drive. So, back in the old days, they would just add it and be done with it. And now we're going to not cover your claim. And, you lied on your application. So it does put us in one of those great little positions where we get to fight for the carrier while trying to stay neutral to the client.
So my assumption would be that when answering the question, what's hard, team members, homeowners, two things you've said so far, the homeowners thing, there's nothing fixing that but time, right? Until the market changes, conditions change. So we won't spend much time there unless you think there's insight to be had through a conversation around homeowners market. You agree that it's just
I agree. There's nothing much I can do about that. Let's just roll with it.
Yeah. But back to the team thing a minute, because we know that one of probably the single largest one expense category in many businesses, and for sure insurance agencies, is payroll. And it's also a critical piece to the success of the agency. The agency, having standards, delivering quality customer service consistently over time. And we agree that most agency owners say it's possibly the hardest thing to feel like you've got it checked off so you can focus on everything else. And is the problem with the team members the recruiting and finding candidates, or the hiring, getting them to take the job, or the getting them trained to do quality work, or getting them to show up? And I know you may say all of that. I don't know if that's a cop out though.
At some point there, it's all of that. I think a lot of people, especially I think a lot of the younger generation, don't like the hard. They don't like the hard. And I would say to them all the time, I'm like, it's not hard. Is it complex? Yes. Is it something you have to pay attention to? Yes. So you can't just haphazardly do it like you are at QT, where you just ring up the stuff and be done with it and turn around and continue talking to your neighbor. You have to know what you're doing. So with respect to that, you can't be watching a YouTube video and helping a client and then walk out the door and you forget that you didn't upload that endorsement and add that car to the policy. Next thing I know, 6 months or 2 years later, I have an E&O claim because little Betty decided that YouTube video was more important than actually completing her job. So those kind of things, and unless I'm there at every location to kind of oversee and hold hands, I can never be 100% accurate that everyone's doing what they're supposed to do, right? I have people in place to try to make sure those things are happening. We have an internal application auditor now that goes through every new business application and makes sure that what's on the application is on the company side and what's in Jenesis side, because as the owner of Jenesis is only as good as the person entering that information. So if we miss any of those steps, then that leaves the agency open. So I think just the follow through for a lot of people is hard. They don't like to feel like someone's looking over their shoulder. Am I doing it right? I don't need a parent. Well, I kind of need you to know that we're all being looked over. It's not just you because I distrust you, but it's because I have clients to protect and I have an agency to protect. Because if my agency goes under, I've just had 21 people lose their income. So it's a lot.
Yeah, I get it. I think Lisa and I were talking about this the other day. When someone says they don't like to be micromanaged, that's normally the person that needs to be micromanaged.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's shift then to growing an agency. So do you put much thought at this stage into growth strategies and track the source of the policies you're writing, or is that a little bit on autopilot now and works well enough for your standards?
Probably more so on autopilot. When I started growing, I did it through acquisition. I tried a couple startups on my own, didn't love it. When you already have one at the time I had the one that was very demanding. It was already of, nice enough size to where I needed to make sure things were still going. Couldn't really take my eye off that one to try to do a scratch agency. And so when I had the opportunity to expand and buy other agencies, that to me was the best way for my growth. And now that part of that growth is maintaining and obviously cross-selling. Advertising, I still do a lot of, but for the most part, as long as I see numbers still rising, then I feel like we're doing our part.
Okay. So, but that is something that you track monthly or quarterly or annually to see, are we growing? And then if we are, feeling pretty good. If not, then you'd say, whoa, let's pay attention to this. Because there's always something broken in a business. And whatever then you focus on that thing and hopefully you fix it. And then something else is broken over there that you've not been paying attention to while you're trying to fix the other thing. You mentioned cross-selling. Do you accidentally cross-sell, or do you have a strategy, and is that intentional?
Well, I have a strategy, but do my staff always follow that? It's a different thing. I want them to, and they're supposed to always ask for the supporting lines. Am I there to see if they do it every single time? No.
Yeah. Do you use the emails that come out of the automated emails that come out of Jenesis to people like that don't have homeowners with you or don't have auto or don't have whatever?
We have dabbled in that at times and have not used it consistently.
Okay. If you ever do it doesn't work right or something, let me know. I think just like here at Jenesis, if you were to call in and you get a support person, we don't train them to cross-sell, probably should. The difference in our support people is they're really technical support people. So that's a different mindset than somebody that's willing to be an insurance salesman because they're already kind of buying into the fact that they're supposed to sell insurance. But if we had something in place for our guys to try to say, oh, by the way, Lee, let us build your website or let us do this thing or that thing, the policing it does get a little hard. So what are your thoughts about incentivizing for cross-selling?
They have incentives in place. And so they submit those to me monthly. So I can see the ones that are doing cross-sells versus the ones that are not. And I'm getting ready to do something new. That I was on a road trip recently with some girlfriends, and they're in the nursing field. And one of them was mentioning how she has to do a peer-to-peer survey. And I said, what do you mean? Explain that to me. And I like the idea of it so much. She says, well, we get two peers that come to us, and I have to go find two different peers to do my reviews, and we just evaluate each other. There's a form that we have, and we just say, I like this about this, or I don't. I said, but is that honest? If you're doing it to somebody, if I go to Eddie and say, Eddie, review me, I would imagine that knowing I'm going to see your responses, there's all going to probably be good responses. Maybe an occasional critique. Well, she could have her speakers working better. Right. But for the most part, I feel like if you go to someone that they're only going to give you kind of positive things. So I've looked into it, and I think I'm going to do peer-to-peer reviews, but I'm going to choose the people that gets to review each other, and the results will only come to me. so that I can kind of get a good take on how others see their coworkers in a real honest way, so that I can use that as a training tool, because they may see someone as a complete rock star where I only get brought into the fold when there's an issue. So I just like the idea of seeing how others within the company think about each other.
In what format is the person that's going to be doing the reviewing seeing?
I'm going to actually take the forms to them and let them fill them out and give them back to me. That way I don't risk them being sent around in the company by others.
So if I worked in your agency, is this person that's doing my peer review someone that's just kind of observing me day to day? Is that what you're talking
Possibly, not necessarily, since we're so intertwined. Even though we don't work in the same office, we help each other constantly. We're on the phones with each other. We finish each other's quotes. We answer each other's calls. So I think it's fair to say that if I'm in Concord and I have someone in my Shelby office review someone from Concord that I know they deal with, I think it's a fair assessment. And it could actually probably even be more of an assessment of honest feedback, because the fact they don't see them every day, but they have an interaction with them. So no matter how that is, they'll give me an indication of what maybe my clients are getting over the phone as well.
Okay. Yeah, I like it. That's cool. I look forward to hearing how that goes.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. All right, we'll start winding down. You have participated. Well, and are you currently the president of AINC? Okay.
I am.
So president of an association here in North Carolina, for a small association, a boutique association for independent insurance agents. Yeah. And what about things like Big I or PIA? Are you involved now?
I'm a member of the Big I.
Okay. I went to the conference in Winston-Salem last week. You weren't there, were you?
I was going to go, but I had to work in office instead. We had a couple people out.
It was really good conference. So I had a lot of people there. It was well attended.
I hate missing those.
Yeah. I'd like to go to more. Is there anything that we have not talked about that you would like to talk about today?
I mean, I will say that one of the things I think I'm most proud of is the way that I try to keep all of our offices, even though they're so not together, very well connected. We do outings twice a year. Typically, we close the office one Thursday a quarter, and we all meet at one of the locations, whether it be Concord or Belmont, so that we can all stay connected, because I think that's so important for them to know the people on the other end of the phone line or the other end of the chat line, so that you have a connection with that person and that you want to help your coworker. We also have like an online calendar so that everybody knows how to schedule their time off, so that it's never a contradiction to where I have 8 people asking for the same day off. So I'd like to say that while they run pretty seamless for me now, in the beginning when I was expanding, I was juggling a lot, trying to figure out how am I going to keep everything on the same page. So we do Trillion, which is instant messaging system. We have a calendar, a company calendar everybody looks at before they make appointments. And we have meetings quite often so that we can stay on the same pages.
I love all that. We do those things too, and it's made a big difference. We do quarterly team meetings. We close, and because of our people, your people are all within an hour or two of each other or something. We have people in quite a few different states across the country. So we have to do a Zoom meeting, but we do a 3.5 hour quarterly Zoom meeting, and we close down in the afternoon. And I believe the inconvenience that it does probably cause a couple of people each quarter is worth how much more we get to help them. Because it's like us, like in the airplane where they say, put your mask on before, so you're right, qualified and able to help other people. So I think it's like that. And I think it's really cool about the face-to-face that you're doing too. We don't get to do that. We could. Ours would just be a lot more expensive.
Right. Well, I just think that if anybody is starting out and they are wanting to expand, I think they just need to understand that there are some growing pains that go with that. But there are so many ways to do it in today's world than there was once upon a time. And to stay connected to your staff is so very important.
You know, I don't think I've made this comment on the other podcast episodes, but one thing that just dawned on me, and you what I'm going to say, you and a lot of other people were part of this for me early on, is the kind of things that we're talking about now. When I started my agency in 91 and then didn't start selling Jenesis till 98, didn't create it till mid 90s and sold it late 90s. I used to say it like this back then: when I got outside of my four walls of my agency and started connecting with other agency owners at the time across North Carolina, now across the country. But Leanne, it made such a big difference for me to not just have, because I have very limited knowledge, but once I started, pulling from Lee and pulling from all these other people over time, it made a big difference. And I would imagine you've experienced the same thing, right? And because you've networked quite a bit over the years.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree.
It does make a difference, because it is nice to take, it's not a one size fits all. And there are things that I've heard you say through the years, can't recite them right now, but they've resonated with me. I believe that Lisa made comment one time that for every meeting she goes to, she likes to have 3 takeaways. If I'm not mistaken, it was 3. And I like that. And I was like, you know what? Because sometimes you can get so much information thrown at you. I think that's a reasonable number, and say, if I can get those 3 takeaways, then I did something that wasn't wasting my time.
Yeah. Yeah. And by the way, every meeting I've ever gone to or conference, I come away better than I went into the conference. Even some of them, I went to one Thursday morning about AI. And we're doing a lot of AI stuff here at Jenesis this year. We've really started implementing things and have a roadmap for some other things in the software and things we're using internally and things we're passing on as well. But so this particular conference, we didn't come away with a lot of new information, but we came away better than we went into the meeting. There were things that stimulated our thought process that we made notes of. So I'm always a big fan of getting out of your office and go meet other people, expand your horizons, and you'll always be better than you started that relationship. Okay, final advice for people that want to have success in this business. What's your simple advice?
Oh goodness, simple advice is don't just know your carriers. Make relationships with your carriers. It makes a huge difference. Be good to your staff. They really look to you and they really need you. And I don't care what their issues are. I have an open door policy. They can come to me. And I do think that makes a huge difference for them.
Okay. Yeah, I like both those things. And I think early on, business owners tend to think they're pretty important and they neglect the value of the team members too much. I did. And I think early on, I think maybe always, I think it's hard for people to get the mindset of the relationships with the carriers, because too often the independent agent, it's almost like an adversarial relationship with the carrier instead of the true partnership, so cool. Well, thank you, Leanne. This has been great.
Absolutely. Thank you.
It took us a few attempts to get this put together. And then at the beginning, I cut my finger and we had to delay the recording a little bit. So that was weird. I told Lisa, she was putting the Band-Aid on us, and I can't miss this podcast. We tried to record it like 2 or 3 other times. If anyone is watching this and they would like to follow up with you on a question or two, would that be okay with you?
Of course.
And email the best way to connect with you?
Yes.
And
it's
what?
Lee.Pridgeon, Pridgeon, @goallcare.com.
Love it. Thank you again, Leanne, or Lee, my good friend,
Lee.
Close friend, Lee.
That's right.
So, all right. Thank you. I hope you have a great rest
Eddie.
of your day.
I appreciate it.
Okay.
You as
bye.
well.
Thanks for listening to the Insurance Agency Success Podcast, where independent insurance agencies like you get the tools and insights to grow, streamline, and enjoy your business. And if you're ready to simplify and scale, visit jenesissoftware.com, Jenesis with a J, and click on the orange button to request a demo. I appreciate you being here. Keep growing, keep building, and I'll see you next time.